this is going to be a quick review of solving systems of equations when we're using word problems. So I'm going to ask the same things every time. What are the two variables? What are the two things that are changing that I'm looking for? Write the equations, solve the system, and then you have to find the second variable. So read the question and figure out what are the two things that are changing or varying. Dennis mowed his neighbor's lawn for a handful of dimes and nickels, 80 coins in all. Upon completion, the job he counted out the coins, and it came to $6.60. How many of each coin did he earn? Usually you'll find in the last question is a clue about the variables. How many, so we're talking about the number of each coin. Once you recognize that, you can set it equal. I am going to recommend, when you do it for a test for me, that you write what you're letting each variable represent. So I'm going to let x equal the number of dimes and y equal the number of nickels. And I got that from the last question that said how many of each coin did he actually earn. So then if I know my variables, I can look back in the question to write two equations. Well, one, he said there was 80 coins in all. So one of the equations could be the number of the nickels plus the number of dimes, or vice versa, equals 80. The number of dimes and nickels, there was total of 80. The second equation, I am going to use the actual amount. I know if I had 1 dime, it's worth 10 cents. If I had 30 dimes, it would be worth 300 cents. So I am going to write that 10 times the number of dimes will give me my total amount of that I have in dimes, plus 5 cents times the number of nickels I have to equal, now I'm going to write 660 because I'm talking about the total cents. So now I have two equations and I can solve the system. There's a few ways I could do it, right? I could draw the equations and see where they cross. I can substitute or I can eliminate. I think substitution is going to be the easiest because I'm going to write that the number of dimes is actually going to be 80 minus the number of nickels. I'm minusing y from both sides. Now I can plug that in to 10 instead of x. I'm going to substitute 80 minus the number of nickels, y, plus 5y equals 660. Okay, remember when we're solving equations, distribute. Five y equals 660. Combine like terms. Oh my goodness. And then you're going to have to subtract, or you have a two-step. So I'm going to subtract 800 from both sides. I will get negative 5y equals negative 140. Watch your signs. Divide out by negative 5. That means y actually equals 28. Let's go back and look. We wrote that y was the number of nickels. I have 28 nickels. So to find the number of dimes, I'm going to plug it back in because the number of dimes is going to be 80 minus the number of nickels, or 80 minus 28. So x is going to be 52. So because I had written this, I can look back and see that I actually have 52 dimes and 28 nickels. Okay, let's look at another one because you want to figure out what two variables you have and then write the equation. So sometimes they both vary. Sometimes you're going to see a rate. If you see a rate, right, we're talking like dollars per hour. This one is going to be the cost per topping. So the cost per topping. When you see a rate, you got to think that's M. M, think rate. Okay, so let's read the questions and figure out what are the two things that are changing. At a large pizza at Pal's Pizzeria cost $6.80 plus 90 cents for each topping. The cost of a large pizza at Guido's Pizza is $7.30 plus 65 cents for each topping. How many toppings need to be added to the large pizza from Pal's and Guido's in order for the cost to be the same? Okay, so you got a few hints here. How many toppings and the cost. Those are my two variables. So I am going to let x equal the number of toppings, and I'm going to let it be x because that's what changes. There's a rate there. There's a cost for each topping. And I'm going to let y equal the total cost of the pizza. I'm going to go back and look at my equation. Look at this. It is 90 cents for each topping. That's a rate. So if I have one topping, it was 90 cents. If I had two toppings, it's going to be $1.80. So when I write my equation, it is going to be for Pal's Pizzeria, right? The cost of the pizza is going to be 90 cents per topping times the number of toppings, there's your x, plus that additional cost of $6.80. We've seen this before. If you had no toppings, a cheese pizza costs $6.80. When you add toppings, that changes. That's your rate. So look at Guido's Pizza and set up that equation. The total cost is going to be 65 cents per topping plus the original $7.30 when you have no toppings at all. That's your y-intercept, your b. Okay, so now you have to set up your system of equation. And I think it's going to be pretty easy to set them equal because you have what y equals. You can graph these lines, but that's going to be tricky to see. So I'm going to plug in this for y. I'm going to substitute. So the equation that I'm going to solve is going to be 0.65x plus 730 equals 0.990 cents times the number of toppings plus $6.80. All right. At this equation, remember we have to move. Everything is simplified. There's no distributing. So I am going to minus 90 cents times x. I'm going to put like terms on the same side. So I will get negative 0.25x plus 730 equals 680. I'm just solving the equation. I'm going to minus 730 from both sides because that's my constant. It's a two-step equation. I get negative 0.25x, equals negative 50 cents. Oh, so those two negatives go away when I divide both sides by 0.25, no matter what I wrote there. And I'm going to divide it by a negative. X is equal to 2. Wait a sec, what do we let x equal? The number of toppings. So when I have two toppings, the cost is going to be the same. Read your question and figure out what the two variables are. Okay, then try and set up the equation. Is there a rate? It's going to be in the form y equals mx plus b. If there's not a rate, like the one we did before, they should give you something so you can set up two equations, solve that system. Use graphing, substitution, or elimination.